The economy shrank, first time in 3 years. People are pointing to the tariff policy. There are people looking at their 401ks that are worried. What do you tell them? Is this going to work?
So the first thing is, when you talk about the economy, this is Joe Biden's economy.
They've now been in office for about 4 months, and it's still somehow Joe Biden's fault, despite the unending backslapping they give each other for their supposedly incredible first 100 days in office. But to be fair, I did cut JD off there. Maybe he had some good explanation.
We inherited $2 trillion of debt, the highest peacetime deficits in American history, a $1.2 trillion trade deficit, which fundamentally means we're not making enough of our own stuff. And the president came in and he said, this is not always going to be easy. It would have been very easy for Donald Trump to do what administrations past have done, which is borrow a lot of money and continue fueling the national debt. He said, no, we need a reset.
So is the plan to reset everything back to zero? Seriously, though, there's a lot there to go off of in just that short clip. Starting with what he said at the end, yes, Trump did say that things aren't going to be easy after taking office. Prior to that, when he was campaigning, he wouldn't stop promising that everything would be great and wonderful again on day one. And somehow his base is just fine with that bait and switch. Vance justifies that by complaining about the debt and trade deficits. Well, the call is coming from inside the White House on that because Biden spent half as much as Trump in his first term, despite inflation, and got more done than a singular tax cut for the rich. And on trade deficits, didn't a certain Donald Trump just renegotiate our trade deal with Canada and Mexico 5 years ago? Vance wasn't the only one facing tough questions, though.
If there were no major concessions made in Geneva by the Chinese officials, some businesses may ask, was this last month worth the pain that it caused?
So again, Caitlin, I would just point out it's the Chinese that really caused this pain. Every other country in the world, when we imposed tariffs, understood we're trying to deal with a $1.2 trillion trade deficit.
This is the problem with just hiring lackeys. They're not always the most qualified to actually sell your propaganda. Despite Trump finally starting to back off of his disastrous tariff approach, they're trying to spin his concession, his humiliation, his retreat as a win. The issue is you can't take a victory lap if you got nothing to tout. Surprisingly, GOP Senator Rand Paul is actually pushing back against their efforts, though.
With China, we started out at 145%, then we went to 80%, now we're at 30%. But that's 30% more than we have on currently. So this will be a 30% rise in any goods that are coming from China, and somebody will pay that, and it will be the consumer. If the consumer's happy to pay more when they go to Walmart or more when they go to Target in order to get fairness or to teach China a lesson, then so be it.
Credit to Rand Paul for pointing out what many aren't. This pause is still 30% higher than things were before, and that price is still going to be paid by the consumers despite what Donald Trump or JD Vance or any of them say.